Compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act. Notice of this meeting has been provided by advertisement in the Cape May Star and Wave and has been posted on the bulletin board at Township Hall.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance in a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Conrad. Here. Councilmember Neville. Councilmember Douglas. Here. Deputy Mayor Clark.
Here.
Mayor Beck.
Here. I'm looking for our Eagle Scout, and I do not see one. Okay, so we move down. We're on the, before we begin the work session, we have a proclamation to read out. It's April 2013 is Autism Month. Whereas autism is a developmental brain disorder which causes impairments in a person's ability to communicate, socially interact, and results in repetitive and unusual behaviors. And whereas more and more health professionals become proficient in diagnosing autism, more children are being diagnosed on the autistic spectrum, resulting in rates as high as 1 in 88 in the U.S. and 1 in 49 children in New Jersey. And whereas there is no cure for autism, it is well documented that if individuals with autism receive treatment early in their lives, it often is possible for those individuals to lead significantly improved lives. And whereas FACES, Autism Support Network, is joining autism organizations all over the world in order to educate parents, professionals, and the general public about autism and its effects. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Michael E. Beck, do hereby proclaim April as Autism Awareness Month in the Township of Lower, and urge all employees and residents to participate in the region's autism awareness activities in order to become better educated on the subject of autistic spectrum disorders. We have with us Lisa Bryant and her son Jason, and Jason has this disorder, and he has been coming here, and it's been a pleasure to watch him grow up. I think we just figured out this is it's either his 5th or 6th year that he's come before council during Autism Month, and has bravely stood up and read to us and gotten better every year. And we've watched as when Lisa first came here and brought the subject up, how in the 6-year period, it's really gone from, it's two sides of the coin. It seems like it's become more and more diagnosed, with the statistics pointing to more incidents of the disorder. At the same time, it seems as though the support group has grown significantly also in relationship to that. So I would ask you to step up to the microphone, please. And I have to acknowledge that Lisa has a beautiful corsage on, which is courtesy of Barbara Frame at Barbara Seashell Floors, who, when she found out that we were having this tonight, she gave us that corsage, and I want to thank her. So if Jason has the opportunity, we're all ears. Go ahead, my friend.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor Beck. Hello. Hi, Mayor Beck and council members. It is great to see you once again. If you don't know me, my name is Jason Patrick Vizesco. My brother Eric and I just turned 12 years old and are in 6th grade at Sandman School. I don't really get all of this autism talk, but I do know that I like a lot of kids and adults with autism. I have difficulties in certain areas. Being patient can be very hard. I am very honest and not trying to be rude, but I will probably tell you just how it is or how I feel dealing with sights and sounds are still difficult. Fire alarms, loud washing machines, seeing a storm coming, and even I love playing basketball, but the buzzer at the rack drives me crazy and it hurts my ears. Mom said I was a hero when I smelled something in our house last summer. It was a fire, and because of my sensory issues, I smelled it right away. Our great fire department came and took care of it, so we were safe. Whew, that was a close one. Even with our difficulties, we are just like everyone else. In many ways, I still love Play-Doh, Oreos, video games, music, and dancing. I have a great sense of humor, and I love to laugh. I played basketball at the rec again this year. My brother and my friends, Mr. Morales, taught me how to play the trumpet. My first song was Hot Cross Buns. I have such a great therapist. My face is family and awesome teachers at Sandman who are teaching me a lot, so I'm ready for junior high. I can't wait to have my own locker there. Mom says that I have a bright future ahead. Just like my brother and sister, junior high will be different. But if the supports there are anything like I have had so far, it is a sure bet. We also have the same hopes and dreams as everyone else. Sometimes it may be rough to get through a difficult situation, cause when my anxiety kicks in, can be very hard to calm down. But the bigger picture, we have jobs and earn money to be a mom or dad, or just have the same opportunities as everyone else. Even though there are many people working on trying to figure autism out, I will probably always have it, but with all these great supports, I won't have me, and possibilities are endless. I hope the other people with autism are lucky, like me, to have the same. I would like to remind you that if you see a child or even an adult having difficulties, please just try to be patient and understand. Do not judge them because they have an issue that they cannot control. If nothing else, just gives them a smile. That just might take their day. And please don't forget to join our Faces friends all over the world to blow bubbles of hope to the sky for those who are affected by autism on the 22nd, April 22nd at 1:15. Thank you. Thanks to our buddy, Mr. Dietrich, who works so hard each year. Ours are ready to go. Thank you, Mayor Beck, our council members and residents of Lower Township for your continued support of autism awareness.
I mean, that's outstanding. And each year we've seen improvement. You've gotten taller, you read much, much better, and you're a hero in a lot of different ways to all of us. So we thank you for coming here. Thank you, Mom Lisa, and it's Aaron and Eric, right? And I'll be over there for the bubble day. Okay? You take care now, and thank you very much for coming in.
Can I get a drink?
What's he need?
He wants a drink. I thought he was going to ask for his picture, but
I need a picture as well.
Do you want a picture? Is that what you're asking for?
Yeah.
Council, you want to come down? We can all get in a picture with. That would be great.
And get you some TV time over here so we can get you on the telly. Here, here's your proclamation. There's everybody standing here. Come on, Mom. Get in here. Aaron, come on in. All right. Smile it up. Everybody smile. Okay, pal. Good job.
Thank you.
board fans. I don't see. Okay, so we'll move down now to the work session. We have the 2013 budget. Leon and Lauren, take it away.
Thanks, Mayor.
You're welcome.
Tonight is the public hearing on the budget that you introduced back in February. This is a requirement of the state that the public have an opportunity to comment on the budget. There's been no changes, been no proposed changes from the original introduced budget, which contained a tax rate increase of 2.9 cents. The majority of that increase is due to basically a revenue shortfall between tax appeals and unpaid taxes. You lost a little more than 0.6% in your percentage collection, lost over $400,000 in your fund balance. So those two items alone are a majority of the increase. You had just about 2% increase in salaries and wages, which is normal. I won't say normal, but it is the kind of the unwritten maximum right now. The rest of the expenses were pretty much under control of the reserve fund collected taxes, which, because of the poor percentage collection, that had to be raised. The one thing you had to realize is that you levy basically $56 million between your budget, the two schools, all the county entities. So if you miss by 1%, that's $560,000 that you lose in revenue. So it's a big change when the percentage collection falls. I know that the mayor has spoken to me about the possibility of a reassessment, which would alleviate most of the appeals, put everybody on a fair footing again. This is rare that we've had a reval, a reassessment, which was a downgrade, a reassessment, which was a downgrade. In the past, well, I've been doing it 38 years, every one was a reassessment up, 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 up. We're in a trend of devaluations. Many towns have had them. You look at, for example, a large town like Ocean City, they're down to 11,300 million, down from almost 14 billion 2 years ago. So there's, Avalon was almost 9 billion, they're down to 7 billion. It's happening in every town, it's not just Lower Township, it's all over the state. In fact, I was communicating with the mayor earlier that I have towns with over 2,000 appeals. You're going to have less than 300, which is a good thing, but there are towns with over 2,000, and not just from hurricane towns. I'm talking about mainland towns, very similar to yours. So that's a trend that is one that we hope will start to reverse. I still think that we're at the bottom, and that I know from town to town I'm seeing a lot of new construction in a lot of places. And again, not just from redoing hurricane damage, I mean real construction. Hopefully that trend's going to continue. Usually the shore gets it first, the mainland gets it second. That's the way it usually migrates with the new construction. But hopefully we're at the bottom and we're not seeing any more shrinkage in values. If in fact you do the reassessment, that would seal off probably almost $800,000 worth of revenue between what you lost and what you couldn't use. It's the swing basically that you had last year. I think if you saw maybe almost a month ago now, I was at a league dinner. It was about 75 people from various towns, and it was an article done in the Herald on the front page. I actually cited different towns because between me and my partners, we audit everybody in Cape May County, so we have knowledge of everything that's going on throughout the county. And I used you as an example that your increase was not a spending increase, your increase was a revenue shortfall. If you read that article, I don't know if you saw it or not. There are increases that range from 1.5 to 7 cents. You're kind of in the middle of what is going on right now. You saw just 2 weeks ago, Cape May adopted at 1.5, Seattle had a 1.9. It's a common element where we're out of revenue. You might have made $300,000 in interest 5 years ago. I think you made $5,000 or $6,000 this year. There's nothing to be had. State aid has not changed. If it has changed, it's changed downward over the past 5 years. So you're forced to do more with less. You've controlled the number of employees that you've had very faithfully. You've analyzed every retirement to see whether you need a rehire or part-time hire, et cetera, et cetera. That's why we have just a 2% increase in salaries. That number has actually been on a steady basis for the last 4 years, I guess, is your employment. I've said this maybe 400 million times in all the meetings over the years. Your budget is how many people you employ, how much you pay them, what their benefits are. That's what drives your budget. And you've been working on that diligently. In fact, you have healthcare issues in here to further help that process. We're getting contributions for healthcare. So there's a lot of things that are working that hopefully within a couple of years we're out of all this stuff and everybody's moving forward again. So procedure-wise, that's a quick overview of the budget. What happens tonight is that you have, after the consent agenda, you'll have the public hearing, which at that time the public can ask questions. Look between Lauren and I will field those questions and answer whatever happens to be, or anybody that wants to field the questions. Then you have a choice to adopt as is, amend and adopt, do nothing, wait for whatever, to make decisions. I mean, I don't think there's much here that you want to change. I think you should adopt it where it is. Probably people are scowling at me back here. That's what, you have a situation that is not all in your hands. So that's where we'll be in 15, 20 minutes for the public hearing.
Lauren? I mean, we say we stayed at 2.9. It was the fact that Lauren, you and I had talked this morning. The original was 3-something that we actually sat down in the back room and said that that's not acceptable. And we made a number of cuts before we even came out here to introduce it. So that's the part that I think people don't realize. If it wasn't for the revenue loss, if we had the same revenue we had last year, we'd be pushing to get to a zero again. We're a cork in a stream. That revenue loss is what all the towns experience. We saw this. And let me just say real quick, and I'll turn it over to the council too. 3 years ago, we lost $5 million in rentals. 2 years ago, we picked up $5 million. So that was a wash. Last year, we lost almost $24 million in ratables. Now, the problem you have is that the last day of tax appeals to file for a tax appeal is today, April 1st. And people filed last year on April 1st. Those appeals are not heard until long after the budget is put into operation. So when you have, say you owe $4,000 on taxes and they appeal and they drop you 25%, your last quarter is basically free. You would pay $1,000, and where normally you'd pay another $1,000, now you don't pay it at all. So what happens is at the end of the year, the last quarter, we get crushed. There's no revenue is what it boils down to. That's why as soon as we saw the numbers came in, we moved immediately. The last council meeting, if you took note of the closed session, we had Ray Brown come down here from the county, and he's the tax assessor. And we had a closed session that lasted for an hour and trying to figure out our options. When you have these tax appeals, what it does is it cuts your budget. Monmouth County, we were just talking, Leon and I had went to a pilot program where they made January 1st the deadline. And to use an analogy, what happens is when you have tax appeals, if you have 4 people rowing a boat and somebody decides to take a break, if you have to keep rowing at the same speed, the other 3 have to pick it up. And that's basically what's happened here, is that everybody's house is overvalued to a certain extent. Now, some people filed appeals and had it brought down to its actual realistic price. When they do that, it's a shared sense. So that turns around and automatically raises, if one person does it, it raises your taxes microscopically. But when you have 300 and some that did it last year, and a lot of them were, the high-end places over in Diamond Beach, and we lost $25 million. You do the math and you sit back and look at it, it's $350,000, $400,000 in that alone. Then you tack on the tax collection rate. I have a chart I meant to bring out that's in my office. I might go get it. It shows the tax collection rate for Lower Township back in the mid-90s. Our tax collection rate was under 90%. It was like 89%. What was our tax collection rate last year? 97.2? I mean, you know, it shows you where we're at. We're so high up with our tax collection rate that there was a day we knew that it was almost impossible to keep it at that level. It's not only a question, people say, well, I don't want to have to increase my taxes to pay for delinquent taxes. I want to take a tax break, I hear people say. We're going to get, that's money that someday we'll get back. It might take 10 years and we have to sell their home, but we'll get that back someday. The tax appeal money is going with the win money. You'll never see that money. And that is because a certain number, 300 people, get a little bit of a tax break. And you know, if you have a house worth, say, $600,000 and the market's 10% overvalued, take 10% of that. That's $60,000 off the tax rolls. And I mean, you know, you can sit there and figure out how much of that is in actual tax money. But when you have 300 and I think 50, now I think the doors are pretty much shut, and I think we're a little less than we were last year. But we need to move towards a reassessment. And at some point in time, we have to sit back and try and I've already had the meeting with Art Aminette, and we've had the meeting, like I said, with Ray Brown last time. We have a game plan here. It's hard to anticipate the real estate market nationwide. You know, housing now in this year is much less. It's dropped in the past 5-6 years. And one of the problems you have is, like, say, your county taxes. If another town moves ahead and gets a reval or reassessment, that, you know, drops their value at the expense of yours. So not only do you end up paying a greater share here, but you also have the same problem at the county level. And it ripples right through. And we're not the worst towns by far. I mean, if you look at the actual equalized values of some of the other towns, they're way, way out of whack. We're out of whack, there's no doubt. And Art, to his credit, 3 years ago saw some of this coming and moved to correct it. It's just continued, and we have to do another correction. Now, we looked at certain things. And Lauren, could you talk about the OE? Because we had a suggestion about taking 5% of the OE. And OE, I think there's the perception of what is in OE.
Our health and liability insurance is in there, so are our utilities and our tipping fees. These are numbers that really you can't just cut across the board.
You can't cut. Is your microphone, can you hear in the back? Okay. Go ahead.
Start over.
Yeah, I would like that. I don't know that we can barely hear you.
Our other expenses includes health and liability insurance, utilities, tipping fees, contractual things. Basically, when it boils down to department OE, it's about 10% of the total OE number. So when
Right, and it's remained flat for years.
Right.
And I mean, it doesn't do you any good to have a workforce if you can't purchase things for them.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, you know, we're splitting hairs with that.
Yeah, larger departments would be able to operate if you cut their budget. They really be
In that respect. I mean, we did it by the book. Like we said, when we came in, we did attrition, we lost, and we've gone through these numbers from 144 to 128. We supported the toolkit, we've done all that. And the only increase that we can sit back and say, yeah, we generated that increase, has to do with the new contracts, which is the future of this town in relationship to its economic sanity. I mean, there's where you have taken a starting salary of $47,000 and shifted it back to $33,000, where after 7 years you're not having somebody making 90-some thousand, they're making $58,000. I mean, that is the future of Lower Township in its economic endeavors or economic area. All I'm saying is that cost us 200-some thousand. The other 800,000 is based upon, you know, loss of revenue. So, you know, and council, if you have comments or questions, feel free to ask. The capital program that's in the back of the book, that has no bearing on this budget tonight at all. Is that correct?
Correct. It's just the plan.
And I've talked to you numerous times about this, and one of the plans that you and I said is that in the future, I'm going to request that department heads come in and present their department's capital request. So that instead of getting papers that have everything on there, we actually will be able to sit back and look at what each department wants to do in relationship to its capital plan and do it a piece at a time.
Until you pass a bond ordinance, there's no moving forward on any of these?
There's nothing in there.
No.
It's just, it's basically a Sears wish list at the back, and it has no credence. Council? Guys?
I think on this budget, it has been worked to its lowest level. We also have really started on our next budget with our health care. We spent quite a few hours working with the health care with Lauren and Margaret and Julie and Norris. We worked together to try to look to the future with our health care and looking to next year, hopefully coming up with a substantial savings on our healthcare program. And it's an ongoing process, so you're working on this budget, but then you're also in turn working on next year's budget. We're not going to see that residual savings of this year. I mean, it's going to be next year and the year after that we'll begin to see that. But I think, and the same thing is what the mayor has said in our budget with working with our contracts, that's all our future. And the future is looking brighter on that basis as far as our contracts, health care. These are our big ticket items that, Leon has mentioned. There are big items in our budgets. And I think we're definitely working towards positive improvement with our budgets.
I'll just reinforce the effort that was taken to look at the healthcare as an initiative to really save some money for the township. This is an opportunity for hundreds of thousands of dollars in savings. It could be as much as $500,000. Right now our healthcare is about 1/8 of the budget, about $3 million. And what we're doing right now is we're basically giving to a carrier, a healthcare provider, $3 million, and no matter what happens to the township and their employees, we pay $3 million. That's it. So let's say we hand them $3 million, but we only spent $2 million in medical benefits. They keep the extra $1 million. That's pretty much the way it is now. So what we've done is look into what other usually larger organizations, the county does self-insurance, the school system, our local school system does self-insurance, and we looked into this idea called self-insurance. And what it basically means is that if we use a carrier, but if we, let's say we had the same experience with our healthcare costs this year going forward as we did the past year, we would save about $500,000 in that neighborhood, and we would be able to keep it. But what we have to do is plan for the worst case scenario. So we understand what the worst case scenario is. We understand what we buy insurance to cover all the worst case scenarios. And we know that the worst it can be is this number. And we budget for that because that's the responsible thing to do. But we're going to be working throughout the year to look at it, and as the claims come in, if we have an experience like we had last year, we're going to start seeing a savings building up in this healthcare account. And that'll be something to look forward to because, as we know, Mayor, $400,000 savings could be a whole penny, off of the next year's budget. So this is really a reflection of the initiative that our treasurer, our entire team, kind of looked into this and got under the hood to understand how it works. And it'll be a bit of extra work and attention. We're going to meet every month to be watching it to make sure. But the important thing is our employees are not going to see any change at all in terms of the benefits that they're receiving. They will have the same quality health care and be able to go to their same doctors. And it'll be, as I said, the same carrier that the county is using as well as the school system is using. So that's an opportunity for a big savings.
I came in here a couple days and there was like a whole crowd of people in here that were working on that. That's never been done before. And, I congratulate you two guys for all the work you put into that. I went in and got my chart. I have to show you this. This is, I used to use this when I taught in 8th grade to teach like multiple bar graphs. And you know, you have to remember, we went from 97.81 to 97.21, something like that, right? 86. Okay, now, here's, I don't know if you can see this, but it basically shows Lower Township. Yeah, Lower Township in 1990, I'm going to say 92, 93. And our tax collection rate was about 88, it didn't reach 89%. We'd have to get out of town. I mean, I can't imagine how much lost revenue that would be. We're a victim of our own success, and Sue Jackson does a fantastic job. I have to give her all the credit in the world. Yeah, it is. We're the red ones. Okay. And the top of the graph only goes to 90, 94, probably 95%. So when you're sitting right here in 92, this is the 90% bar where my hand is, right here. That's the 90%. This would bring you to about, I'd say, less than 89%. So if you could factor in and take about 8 point something off of 8 percentage points off of our collection rate, that would be the ultimate. That would have to be like a depression. But we're a victim of our own success in the sense that she has steadily raised that rate through the years. And when you're up as high as that collection rate, I mean, there's very little margin for her. And the same circumstances, they're related, that crash the housing market also have an impact on people's ability to pay you know, the taxes, so the tax rate or collection rate has dropped too. Okay. Does anybody else have anything to add here on council? I'm sure we're going to get a few questions. Feel free to come forward and ask what you need to do. We're willing to listen to any suggestions you have. I'm being honest about it. You know, I wish I had the budgets that some of the other towns do. I mean, you know, when you have a $24 million budget and you lose $800,000, we operate on duct tape here. I mean, we put things together. We do the best we can. This one is tough to deal with. I mean, if there was a way around it, we've been fiscally responsible through the first 4 years. This one is something that we got caught out in the open with. Questions, suggestions? George, come forward. State your name. Yeah, let them ask questions while Leon's here, right?
Okay, because it's under the regular agenda.
Yeah.
I was just
Oh, it's on, okay, okay. Well, I just figured that he would be able to go if we go through this part. Is that all right with you?
Whatever you want to do.
Is the council okay with that? We'll let them ask questions now so that if Leon has to go, we can pop down.
Just make the motion that you're opening the public hearing of the budget right now.
Okay. All right, we'll make a motion that we're opening. Somebody want to make that motion?
I'll make that.
Okay.
I'll second.
Councilmember Conrad,
Yes.
Councilmember Douglas,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Clark,
Yes.
Mayor Beck.
Yes. Okay, what's your question now, George? Identify yourself, please.
Yeah, George Doherty, Seashore Road.
Right.
Yeah, yes, I guess Mr. Clark was saying about the self-insurance, that health insurance. I've heard a lot about it. I wanted to mention that too. That it's a lot of people are taking that on. It's giant savings, and basically at the end of the year you get to put some of the money, you get the money back, like you were saying, which is, you know, I didn't know if you were looking into that, but that's becoming a widely used, you know, county thing in the state. It's a good, you know, I hope we can get that as soon as possible. That should save us a lot of money. Also, I guess, like the school board had a problem with the regular insurance, not their health insurance, but the regular insurance. They had to get a certain one from the state. Only certain carriers could do schools, and I think I don't know if we're under the same thing where we can we shop around, or do we have to get like a state mandated insurance company?
We're part of self-JIP insurance. It's the joint insurance fund that covers our municipality.
Okay, so we can shop around. We don't have to get. We don't have to just get.
No, we're in with other municipalities and other adjoining counties.
They came and had a presentation here a couple
One
months
big
ago.
pool to save everybody money.
Okay, it is the big state one. So
Yes.
Yeah.
But we can, if we do decide this gets higher, we can jump out.
If possible, but they came and they gave us the numbers. I don't have them here, but it was incredible the amount, since they don't have the overhead that a company has. They are as cheap as you're gonna find.
Well, that's what I mean, just in my instance, I find almost every year I change insurance, because they jump up, everybody jumps up 10%, just, that's just a standard thing. I just shop around, I find something cheaper, 12% less, and then next year that same company, another company does the same. I know it's probably a lot of work, but it is probably, a lot of savings if you do keep changing and checking on that.
Okay.
Coming to that. Also, I read about something in the Herald about the Christie administration, about the state aid. Now, we're getting 1.5 million, the state is giving us.
Yeah, it's somewhere around there.
1.5, I guess. And then I was looking at, like, Lower Township is getting 3.5 million.
No, is that the school?
No, for municipal aid from the state. To the Lower Township, I think, not to the school board. Doesn't say anything about the school in here. This is from Christie, basically given.
Right. No, I don't
Your
have
state
that.
aid's unchanged from last year.
Yeah, it's the same as we had.
Okay, that was
All
last
the
year.
municipalities stayed the same.
All of them.
Okay, just curious, because I see Middle Township they're getting 3.5 million, and their total budget is only 20 million, 20 and a half, I think, they went up to 20.8.
I'm not sure what the article is, I'd have to look at it, George.
I'll leave it to you.
Yeah, I appreciate you getting a chance to look at it.
But just wonder why they get so much more, and their budget is even
Well,
less than us. They're like
it
$4
might be
million
the energy
less than
tax
us.
receipts
That's all
that,
it is.
yeah, that they're talking about. That's something that we discussed at the last meeting, having to do with the state, and they shanghaied some of the aid and what some of the towns would be getting if they had their aid restored.
Yeah, maybe
That's probably
Middle Township
what it is.
is applying for more stuff that we didn't
Could be.
know
I
about,
don't
maybe,
know.
so we can look into that
Could
too.
be.
And get our fair share, because like I said, they're 20 million, and we're 24 million. We're
Right.
getting not less, half, less than that.
Okay, I'll look at it. If you leave it here, I'll take a look at it.
Okay.
Thank you. Somebody else wish to address council? Yes, sir.
Thank you, George.
A little different way of approaching this.
Go ahead.
I've been listening for at least 4 years, often. Go to a store, you want to buy 12 bananas. You can't afford them, you buy 6.
I hear you.
Seems to be apropos here now. Can't afford something, why, you have to do something about it. 3% after 0, 1, 0 for the last 3 years might be explained by Mr. Costello, but I haven't heard much in this whole topic about senior citizens and people that don't have any money. I haven't heard that recently. The senior citizens don't get any more money. They get less. And there's a lot of them in Lower Township. The explanation of it's only $48 for 200,000, that's a bit ingenuous. It's not $48, it's $48 plus what the school's gonna do, what the county's gonna do. So it adds up, and pretty soon, it means a lot of money. You got 2/3 of the parents, I've said this before, K through 6, that are poverty level in this town. That's a number. When I tell that to people that are not from here, they don't believe that. It's unbelievable. What that means is a lot of people are hurting, whether it's their own fault or not their own fault. The kids aren't eating. I talked to the guy that knows more about that than anybody in this town. I don't want to mention his name because he doesn't want his name mentioned, and you know who I'm talking about. You know, 2/3 of the kids, that's the only place they eat, is at the school. They go home, they don't get any dinner at home. They get what's here. And that's it. They don't have clothes. You got a whole bunch of organizations that go out and raise money for these people. They just did it. One church raised 3,000 bags of food and took around this town. One church. Now, some of those people might not, they might go through the cracks. They might not deserve it. You know, you hear that a bit on the street. They accept it when they shouldn't be accepted. But the vast majority accept it, and they need it and want it. Now, that's just one church doing that. You know, I've got a whole bunch of other organizations that do it all the time. I belong to an organization that gives at least that amount every year, maybe more. I don't have as exact figures as what the church's was. People are hurting. A lot of them in this town. And to say it's only 3% or it's only $48, and we can't do any better than that. I really beg to differ. I know you guys try to do what you think is the best. But that number to me is way too much. First time I've seen a budget looks like here tonight. Mr. Costello comes every year, he says the budget's perfect. It should be passed the way that it is. And pass it. And it never is. Go back and chop some off and represent it.
Well, I said we
Last
did
4 or
that
5
before
years.
we came out.
Last 4 or 5 years.
We started at about 3.3. Well, let me answer a few of your things before we go. We've got a whole long train of different statements that you're making here. We're not without sympathy for people. We recognize that. But you're talking about, as the auditor said, you're talking about people at this point. Now, we've already eliminated 16 positions, 144 to 128. You're down, and now we've added a position this year, a police officer, which we need. All right? It's a judgment call that we've made. We've increased that part of that salary and wage increase is a safety factor, and if we feel the need to add another one, and this council supports that, we will. We certainly, we have through the 4-year period done everything we can to try and reduce costs here. This is not something that we can control. I do not control tax appeals. I do not control the housing market. There's nothing I can do about that. Now we're at the point, tell me who you want laid off. Tell me what positions you want cut. Do you want to privatize public works? I will not do that. What positions do you want cut? Because that's where you're at. There's nothing else that's sitting there that's going to generate $1 million to go to a zero tax increase, Jack. You know that as well as I do.
You're using the wrong word, cut. You know, you put that in the article, that anybody that comes up here, you got to show where you cut.
Right.
You know, I think cut and trim, 2 different words, 2 different meanings.
Well, I'm not
No,
sure.
I looked at
When it's people, it's still the same thing. Okay, whether you trim a person or cut them, you're still losing a job, because that's where we'd have to head.
You know, I think you can still do O&E, regardless.
Okay.
I think if you walk in and say, either we shut down or we're going to take 5% off the O&E, period. I don't think the township suffers all that much from that. You know, there's another thing here. I listen to all this stuff with sequestration. I have a hard time pronouncing that word. You know, the federal government, the world was going to fall. The United States was going to fall off the cliff because they passed a law to cut the budget in every department by so many percent. Period. Oh, if we do that, we're all going to go to hell. Everybody here has heard that ad nauseum. What happened? Nothing. All the experts said we were going to fall off and we're going to do this and do that. As soon as they found out that it was going to be real, oh, well, we just found $5 billion over here. We didn't even realize we had it. That was just 2 or 3 days ago. We just found out, you know, and we're not going to fall apart because of that. I think if you sit, I don't care when you brought it up, if you sit and look at it again, and look at it with the eyes of the people that have to pay this, for the majority of the people, this town, you say it is different from other towns. You're damn right it's different. It's a hell of a lot poorer than any other town in the county.
I don't know if it's
Well,
more than
pretty-
any other town.
pretty close.
It's not a rich town by any
Pretty
stretch.
close, got a lot of
And
poor people.
the amount
up there.
of, the total of our budget reflects that.
Got a lot of poor people,
I got a town that has less people than we do and has a $72 million budget.
you know.
And I mean, we're sitting with a 24 million going to 25.
I understand.
All right, so, again, we pinch pennies here. We fight, we do everything we can to try and trim it. If we did it, we're the largest town, if we did this on a per capita, obviously, we went, and I showed everybody here the last time, the website from the Treasury, Department of Treasury, which basically stated that we're the third lowest tax bill in the county, and the two lower than us have no police department, which is the huge ticket item. If you factor that in, we probably have the lowest taxes in the county.
You say you want to pick out some things.
Go ahead.
I saw something, and you know this, we had a discussion about this. I looked on the agenda one day, and here's $25,000 set aside for the law firm that heads up our contract talks, Blaney and Donahue. And it infuriated me. Here's a guy trying to take over the town, threatened this gentleman over here, threatened him. And what do we do even before you took oath? Was you brought this firm in because you said, well, nobody else can do the job that he can do. Well, there are a lot of people.
Excuse me,
I've talked to the
solicitor
solicitor too. I've talked to the solicitor too.
Well, I'm not sure, since you brought it up, Jack, I think he has.
Because that issue was presented to me when I first came in here. And what's going on with the labor contracts is they about 95% through this process. I would be more than glad to take over the whole job and do every bit of it, except that what the township would have paid to bring me up to speed as to where they were having the job done 95%, it would have cost the township a lot more money. So it was posed upon me, what would I do if I were in their shoes? I would do the most cost-effective measure, and that would be let them finish.
You made a statement there, and I talked to you before the meeting, and we certainly didn't go to Mr. Pepper and ask him to do it. And I don't know of anybody in the county that's more qualified to do this work than him. He's been around a long
Jack, I don't
time,
think it's a matter
knows the issue.
I don't think
His
it's a matter of
partner,
qualifications.
his partner's
It's a matter if you've got an attorney on the job that's already up to full speed.
I think if you would have asked him, my opinion is, if you would have asked him, probably would have done it for gratis, And I think maybe some others would have done it for gratis too. If you would have asked.
It would be the first time I ever heard him make such an offer.
Well, I've seen it happen before. I've seen it happen many times. People take work for future work. I've seen that a lot. So you might laugh at it. But I've seen it happen. So I don't know if you can laugh about it or not, because I've seen that happen.
All I can tell you is the question that was posed upon me, and it seemed the most cost-effective measure was to let the guy that was fully up to speed finish what he was doing. There was an estimate at that time, there was only about 10 hours of time left required to wrap those contracts up.
Here's what was
done. Of
done.
course, there's one other thing that's still out there pending that they're in the middle of, and that's an appeal. And it only makes sense to use the attorney on the appeal that will own the underlying case below.
Well, that may or may not be true. I've seen, they have appeal lawyers, that's all they do. I mean, that I know about, and that I know about.
Or you need to pull into the microphone.
Not
In this particular case, I believe it was a fact-sensitive matter, and that's why it made sense to continue that way. But once again, if the township wanted me to undertake all of those things, I would be more than glad to do so. I just thought, if I were in their position, I would want to take the most cost-effective.
You were asked that the first week that you were approached anyway, you hadn't looked at it that closely.
Well, I think that's when the issue came upon.
Yeah. Here's the way it was done. It was put on the agenda for $25,000. Then there was a couple phone calls made. A couple days later, it was removed. Then it was put up again for $2,500. Then it was pulled again.
Go ahead.
Then it was pulled again, and
Give the
then
guy a chance to answer, Jack.
Okay, I'll let him answer when I'm finished the scenario. It was $25,000. Then it was pulled off. Then it was pulled up at $2,500. Then it was put off again. And then it was put up for another $25,000. I mean, I've seen some funny things. I've been around a while, you know, I wouldn't,
Well, to explain
go
how that
ahead, explain
happened
that.
was, an estimate came from Mr. Blaney on what was going to take to complete the labor work, which was about 10 hours. And that's how it got reduced from 25,000 to 2,500, that's my understanding.
Right.
Okay, but then another issue came to light, and that is the issue of this appeal that's going to take place. And the 25,000 went back on the table, my understanding,
Right.
because it was a reasonable estimate as to what it would take to see that appeal through to
Right.
completion. As a matter of fact, I believe it was an overestimate, but whatever is not used, of course, will go back.
Okay, listen, Jack, we got other people that would like to address council, if we'd be considerate, I'd appreciate it.
Okay, just let me sum up here for a minute.
Okay.
I won't take much more. I would encourage you, even if you're not successful, I would encourage you not to pass this thing tonight. Go back and take another look at it. It's a lot of money and a big jump. It doesn't sound big, 3%, doesn't sound big, but it is. It is to a lot of people. And you know those people. Like you know more of them than I know.
Thank you.
And
I'll tell you what,
it's
Jack.
hurting. It's
If
gonna
I
hurt a
thought
lot
that
of
there
people.
was anything that we had done here that could correct this, I'd be the first one to say, let's do this differently.
Take another look.
I have fought all the way, and I was as shocked as anybody when we saw the drain as far as the tax appeals and the tax collection rate. Because quite frankly, if you went back to the fall, I thought we were headed for another zero. Okay, now I'm not going to sacrifice the quality of life here in this town, at least I'm not, by saying, like, we can lay off a couple police, we can lay off some people from Public Works, we can do a lot of different things. I'm not going to do it. If we had consistently raised taxes over the past 4 years, I would say we're doing something wrong, but we haven't. And that's the truth, and you know that.
Please don't put words in my mouth, though.
Jack, you know something? What did we face when we first came on 4 years ago? Let's be honest about it. We got hit with contracts we had no say in that were basically 4% for 4 years. You know that. And we fought tooth and nail to bring that number down and had zeros during that time. You got to be kidding. I mean, everybody else was signing off on contracts that were a fraction of that, and we were stuck with stuck with basically about 16% over that 4-year period. And that is something that we had to dig out from under. Okay. So, go ahead, Tom.
No, I was just saying.
I got you. I hear it. I stand.
Middle, 6% worthwhile with those. I
But
still
we-
those contracts before. I'm not changing my position on them.
Okay.
But we got to zero
All right.
with those contracts.
All right, we did. We fought underneath it all the way, and part of that fight was to reduce the number of people in this township. And once you get done that, you're the victim of your own success, because now we're going to cut positions that we need to have here. And then the next couple of weeks from now, people are going to be in here screaming about that we've cut this, and you can't get roads fixed, you can't get police protection, you got to pay for those things. Because we're a poor town, Ford doesn't say to me, I'm going to give you a discount on the police car you buy. We don't get discounts at the health insurance because we're a poor town. We pay the same price as that town that has a $72 million budget. So at the end of the road, the cost is what it is. I would stand on my head in Macy's window if I could lower the tax rate without hurting this town. I can't. Thank you. We got to get other people.
But please don't put in words that the press could write down that I recommended that you lay people off. And you've made that inference a couple of times.
Well, I'm saying that's our only.
I want to make sure that
Thank you.
That's
Thank
not
you.
involved.
Thank you. Appreciate it. All right. I know it's tough to do so, but if you're coming up, we have to keep it down. If people want to speak, we want to have people with the ability to talk. But if you want to go for any length of time, you have to come in during the day or something. Who else would like to speak? Yes, sir.
My name is Dennis Reed, and I live in Bay Shore East.
What was your name, sir? I'm sorry.
Dennis Reed.
Dennis Reed. Okay. Yes, Mr. Reed.
And believe me, I sit here and I listen, and I have no doubt in your sincerity for all of you. In all honesty, to be the best at stewardship that you're humanly possible of. There's no question in my mind.
Thank you.
That being said, don't carry that too far.
I knew this was coming, but go ahead.
No red light or nothing, but anyway, I just want to say a couple of things. One thing is the tax issue in this township I have the luxury or the burden, however you want to view it, born and raised here,
Okay.
1948.
Very
My
good.
father before me. I've said it before in this room, and I'll say it again. Ready to go back a long time.
Very good.
Taxes over the past 64, going on 65 years of my lifetime, if you wanted to put it on a nice chart like you make, never went down and stayed down very long at all, my friend. My mother's 96 years old and lives in North Cape May on a very modest fixed income. Okay? In a small little typical shoebox house at North Cape May. Her taxes have reflected just what I've said. Now I'm not trying to say, oh gee, boo-hoo, it's me. And I know that you have a terrible job in trying to deal with the budget, the taxes and things like that. In 05, 04 I guess it was, we got a notice. We're going to reassess. They did, they come around. Hey, somebody bought a house. I was working, my wife was working. I left a note on the door. Next thing I know, I get a little card in the mail. My taxes almost doubled because of the valuation they put on my house. I didn't do any improvements to my house, not even just to replace what's been damaged. The roof was going on my house and everything. 2 blocks away, a house that was re-sided, new windows and everything, was reassessed less than my house was. Oh boy, this looks fair to me, huh? My wife said, well, what should we do? I said, we'll have to go to the county seat. Make a long story short, in 06 we went head on collision. And just last year, my wife recovered and was released from the insurance company. Over 5 years of recovery time. Been a long road. Nevertheless, we went in front of the tax office. We filed here with the multiple forms, everything. Oh, you were really over-assessed. There was a great abuse that took place at this time. This was before the great big economical crash that we all endured. Our investments diminished, yours, mine, everybody. Boo, 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 oh well. Stand up and take it like a man. No problem. We roll with the flow and with the punches. The problem is when you get people coming in, doing reassessments, and I heard the word come from you, Mayor, you scare me.
Well, actually, we talked about the reval before. There's a difference between a reval and a reassessment.
Yeah, well, if you come around and they did it.
That was a reval, the one that, and we had more complaints with the reval than we did with an in-house reassessment.
I understand, but more to the point now.
Okay.
We went and fought it, and they modestly dropped it and readjusted our taxes. It was that preposterous. It really was. Oh, does that suit you, Mr. Reed? Yeah. Sorry you had to come out for this. Me too. The bottom line is this. You have a resource asset of your tax base here in the township. We're not saturated with businesses. Maybe some of the other townships are. We don't endure as much of an influx in the summertime, maybe as some of the other townships does, Barrier Island towns, so on and so forth. Nevertheless, we deal with a budget, you know, it's going to be this year, next year. Somewhere, somebody's got to say, gee, 50 people moved out last year. We got to make more money on them from the tax base. 2 years from now, oh, 300 people moved in. Well, keep it the same. Yeah. You got to get out of that mentality. You got to say, geez, we got a surplus now. Why don't we share the wealth? Oh no, hire another police. Do this, do that. We got 1 million places we can put this money. That's stewardship too, Mayor. You know it and I know it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Somebody else wish to address council? All right. Yes, Mr. Rizzo.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. I just have a couple of quick questions. Will the single stream recycling?
No, that's you got to wait till they call to the public at the end. This is the budget hearing. This is only budget.
I'm asking whether this will affect the budget.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were talking about the recycling.
Well, will it affect the budget in any way?
It will. We're hoping that it will increase the amount of recycling that we get.
But I mean, how about the employees? Would there be
Oh, no,
less
we're not
employees
hiring anymore.
involved?
No.
Would there be less employees involved
No.
in single stream recycling?
No. No, the question is about increasing the amount of
That's gonna
recycling
be-
more than
that's not gonna be
anything.
that much. I
Well,
understand that.
I think it's shown that it has in other towns. Okay.
But it's minuscule compared to the entire budget.
I don't know that, you know, it has to do with the trucks, and I don't think Gary's here, so I can't answer all that, what you're answering.
Well, I think there should be some savings someplace along the line.
Okay.
Seems to me that the guy coming down to collect the trash, picking up one can rather than two, has gotta be a little bit someplace or other.
I think your volume's still gonna be there, Mr. Rizzo.
Oh, I understand
Whether
that.
it's 1 can or 2
Yeah.
cans, it'll all be put in 1 can, but it's gonna be 2 or 3 cans.
All right, the second question I had, with the tax lien sales, I mean, you keep telling us the tax rate's going down, you know, we're not collecting as much, but we still sell those sales, don't we?
Yeah, but it doesn't take place right away. It's a process, and so, you know, you do have, and maybe Lauren might be more adept at, or Leon? No? Okay. I mean, you know, it's not like it's not like you can say for sure that somebody who hasn't paid their taxes is going to pay it this year. We do budget a certain amount. If you look at the budget, it has uncollected taxes in there.
$1,000,001.
Yeah. So we have budgeted
But when do
in
the liens come up?
anticipation.
That's what I'm saying, don't you get that
Yes,
money?
we do eventually. I said it's not going with the wind money. That's your tax ratables, tax
It's
appeals.
anticipated in the budget, there's
Yeah.
$1,000,001 anticipated for
That's
delinquent
already,
collections.
okay,
It's already in.
that was my question.
Yeah.
You already have it in there.
Yes, we do.
Okay. Now, are we gonna do another reassessment? Is Art going?
We're looking at it very closely, and I think our recommendation will be coming within, you know, hopefully a short
You
period.
think it would be done this year?
I'm hoping to.
Okay.
I mean, I think council has to approve it, but I mean, I think that you can't continue to have an imbalance. You have to bring
It's
it
gonna
back.
be an in-house, same as we did
I'm-
before?
That's what, you know, this is something that I have to get with Art, and council does, and we have to maybe
We
either
don't
get
have
him
to
here.
spend millions doing a
No, we do not,
reassessment.
and that's why I'm reluctant to talk about it right now. We'll see
Okay,
what
thank you
happens.
very much.
Thank you. Somebody else wish to address council? Close the budget hearing?
Do you want to do that resolution now?
Yeah. Let's do it now and get it done with.
It's resolution number 2013-111, adoption of the 2013 municipal budget. Be it resolved by the Township Council of the Township of Lower, County of Cape May, that the budget herein set forth is hereby adopted and shall constitute an appropriation for the purpose stated of the sums therein set forth as appropriations and authorization in the amount of $19,222,668.12 for municipal purpose.
Do I have a motion to approve?
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second? Second.
Councilmember Conrad?
I would like to get to speak this time because we had questions for Leon, then we jumped into the public hearing, and now we're voting on the budget. My problem with the budget, and I know it's not going to affect the 2.9%. That is there. What the mayor said on that, I agree with. My problem is the capital budget. It's a wish list. It's not going to affect this year's budget. We got $3.9 million in proposed spending. We can take it out. If we take it out, I have no issue with the budget. Problem is, it's $370,000 next year. That's how much it's going to cost us if we use it. These are on items we have not approved. It's not discussed. I know it's not money there. As I said, this is not money that's going to affect this year's budget whatsoever. The mayor brought that up. Leon said that. But if we do use it, it's $370,000 next year. The number of appeals. Some people are optimistic. I'm seeing we're roughly around 200 right now. We might be a little bit over. We don't know till tomorrow or the next day. So what happens if all of a sudden we're facing another 2.9 cent tax increase next year from appeals and less money coming in, plus the 370? I think we have to batten down. That's the fact to me, is the capital. It's not the personnel. I do not want to see any. I'm here to maintain the services. I've always been that way. We have a wonderful service. This was a burp, but they said a speed bump. The problem is, I'm looking potentially at another speed bump next year. What happens then? Why are we going to even put something like that on there when council has not discussed it? Where did the numbers come from? That's the only thing I have. Other than that, the operating budget of the township, I support it. I want to thank the department heads, employees, Lauren, and everybody that did everything they could. They did a wonderful job. And if we remove this from the capital budget, I have no problem, but I cannot vote for something that's a wish list. That to me is fact. Go ahead.
Okay, a couple of things is that the capital budget, which is pages 40, B, C, and D, are information sheets as to what may happen sometime down the road for capital needs. It's a projection as to where the township may be spending money capital-wise. Any one of those projects could or could not happen, any one of them. In order for anything to happen back there, a vote on this budget does not authorize any of those items to be done. Have to be presented with a bond ordinance at some time down the road when the project is brought forward.
I understand that 100%. But why is it there then?
It's just.
Why are we,
It's there every year.
We have a public safety building for $3 million there every year.
No, do you have capital in there?
Okay, I understand that, but if it's, let's just take it out.
Where those pages came from is maybe, well, probably 15, 18 years ago. A town called Manchester Township was passing ordinances, borrowing money, never completing the projects. Between the administrator, the treasurer, and the auditor, they stole almost $3 million of those funds. The state said, and how it came about is one resident kept taking pictures of where these roads were supposed to be done, and they all remained dirt roads, no changes to them. So the state said, well, what we're going to do is we're going to have the towns put in a plan, it's called capital plan, as to what may happen, may not happen down the road, so that the residents, and you got to remember, I guess maybe 10 years ago, this whole document was in the newspaper. I mean, it took up 4 sheets in the newspaper, if you remember back in those days. Those items were all advertised. Now, you get one column of maybe 15 items as your advertisement, unless somebody requests a budget or goes online and get it, they don't see those details. So those pages were put in for the residents of each town to see what was going to happen or what was planned capital-wise. So they could say, all right, you're planning on doing $15 million worth of roads, let's see you do some of them, rather than just borrow the money and steal it. Any project that will come forward requires, in your case, 4 votes yes to pass it, because you need a supermajority on bond ordinances. So that means 3 out of 5 doesn't make it, 4 out of 5 makes it. So anything that comes forward down the road for any of those projects, whatever they happen to be back there, needs to come to council and has to pass at least 4-1 for those projects to go forward. There's no authority to spend 1 penny of that money in this budget right now.
As I said, I understand, you and I had this talk, and I fully understand that. My thing is, someone planned it. I knew nothing about the planning, that was going to be there, and it's there. It's like, hey, we're going to open a credit line for this. And that's what it is. It's talking about opening the credit line. It's not getting the credit line. It's not funding it or anything like that. So why is it there until council fully discusses this? And if it's not that important, as I said, take it out.
Okay, you can take it out because it being there does not mean we won't move that way.
No.
It doesn't mean we will. It has nothing to do with tonight's budget. Has nothing. Our obligation as council people is to fund this government, is to go through the budget as presented. That is the capital budget wish list. What you have here tonight is the budget for the township that we're voting on. We are not voting in any way, shape, or form on the capital program. And in fact, to expand it and to bring it more into public view, we've made a decision that the department heads, when the time comes for capital projects, they will come before here and explain their department's capital projects. So we have the ability to ask them questions, something we've never done before. This section that's in there has nothing to do with tonight's budget.
It does and it doesn't. It's there. If it didn't have anything to do with it, it wouldn't be in book.
It's not what you're voting on. It's not what you're voting on. It's just basically information.
But I, and not prepared to vote for anything to approve, anything concerning the public safety or fish pier. And I'm a big proponent of the fish pier.
And either am I prepared to vote for it, Tom. It's not in there. It's not part of what you're voting on. How could you possibly say you're not prepared to vote on it when we're not voting on it?
Is it in the book?
It's in the book, but it's not part of what we're voting on, Tom.
The operating budget, I said I have no.
It's not, well then vote for it.
But I will not vote for anything on the public safety at this time.
I'm not voting for anything in the public safety building. I don't even know if we're going to move forward on the public safety building. That decision hasn't been made. It's got to come before council. I have no idea where we're going with the pier. That's been changed a couple times, but that's neither here nor there. That's not the discussion tonight.
I know, but.
That's not part of the discussion. This is about funding government, about examining the budget that funds government, not the capital program, the budget.
I understand that.
Okay.
If the state says that we should at least have a budget plan in our budget, we should put, our capital plan, I should say. If the state's asking for that, isn't it the right thing to do, to put on the table the things that we're thinking about? That's what we're being asked to do.
That is some big fluff items to me.
Well,
If we had emergency
that's
management
not-
stuff, if we
let
had pots
me-
that we've been talking about.
What they're asking us to do is put into the budget a capital plan, which means that you put down a list of things that people are going to be discussing down the road. That doesn't mean they're going to do it, but if the question is, should we do what the state says we should do, which is to put forward a plan that's genuinely outlining things that are going to be discussed, that we've put out there. I just think we're doing the right thing by putting it in there. If they said you didn't have to do that, well, then it'd be a different story. But step one is, you gotta put a capital plan. Step two is, we honestly said, well, we're talking about some of these things. There's some ideas out there, so we're gonna be honest about that and put it down as something that we wanna talk about. So, that's pretty simple.
Yeah.
And not one penny is being voted on for those items tonight.
I know, but it's in there, and we never even discussed it being in there before.
Which one?
Take your pick.
Well, I mean, the public safety building hasn't been discussed.
If not on council level, we had the committee report, and that's the last that's been discussed.
That it's not being brought up, it's not even being voted on.
Where do we get the numbers to put in there? That's what I'm asking.
And it's part of the numbers that were
Yeah, I
kicked
know it's
around
not-
last year. All I'm saying is, we haven't done anything towards moving forward with that thing. Will we? I don't know, it's a collective decision. The point is, that's not tonight's topic. Tonight is the budget for this town. Sands without the capital budget. Without the capital budget. Capital budget has nothing to do with tonight's vote. That's what I'm trying to say. Has nothing to do with it. Whether we pass this budget tonight, regardless, it doesn't mean that being in there, that's just I'll be honest with you, I didn't ask for it to be put in there. I don't remember how it got put in there. That's neither here nor there. It's one of those routine things because it's not something, I didn't even look at it until later on. It is not something that impacts tonight's vote because it has nothing to do with the town's budget. It has to do with the capital program. I'll grant you that. And if that's the reason you're voting against the budget, I don't understand. I wish it wasn't there because you'd like to have, something that would, if you have a problem, you say you don't have a problem with the whole extraneous part of it, that's what we're voting on.
Okay, let's get rid of that part of it.
Well, pull it out, just rip your pages out. What's the difference? It has no impact.
I think we need to make a...
Rip the page.
Oh, no, it's in an official binder. We have to do it as a council.
Good, take it out, because we'll just turn around and if we wanted to, at the next meeting, we can vote to...
Can I ask, is it even an option?
I don't know if it's an option.
No.
The state won't let you.
Right, you've presented that as a plan that may happen down the road.
Yeah.
You can't just,
The key word is may.
And could we not have a plan?
no, you have to have a plan.
No, and we
Okay.
have a plan. The rest of it, I have no problem with. Even the capital budget. It's just there's two items in there that now no one knows how we got there, but they're there.
I asked to have you put in, I sat with the CFO, we discussed the possibility of, it's been in all the papers, that the police department may come back over here, and I got an estimate, put an estimate, and that's all it is. When they can you sit down and make a real decision of if you're going to move the police station back here, or if you're not, then we'll get some real hard numbers. But for now, to comply with the law, we had to put a number in, and that's purely all it is. And the same thing would propose the fishing pier or a promenade, whatever the council decides to do. So if you want to blame somebody, you can blame me.
Well, I would, except last week you told me you didn't even know it was there.
Well, I didn't because I asked Lauren, I didn't know we had the numbers in the book. I didn't know it at that point.
I'd like to reissue my motion to adopt the budget, please.
Okay. Second.
Councilmember Conrad?
No.
Councilmember Douglas?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Clark?
Yes.
Mayor Beck?
Yes. Okay. Thank you, Leon.
Thank you.
Your deed is done. Please escort to get Leon out of here, please.
It's been worse. Thanks again.
Thank you. I appreciate all that you and Lauren have done. All right, you're dismissed. Toss the cess away, I think I used to say. All right, go down to the consent agenda. Any comments or questions on the consent agenda from council? Move to public comment on the consent agenda. Close the public portion.
The consent agenda consists of the membership application to the New Jersey Firemen's Association, David Anderson for the Villas Volunteer Fire Company, Marky Alexander and Dennis Robertson Jr. for the Irma Volunteer Fire Company, approval of minutes for March 18, 2013, and Resolution 2013-101 through Resolution 2013-110.
Do I have a motion to approve in a second?
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Councilmember Conrad?
Yes.
Councilmember Douglas?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Clark?
Yes.
Mayor Beck?
Yes.
Ordinance 2013-07 on the regular agenda, an ordinance establishing a single source separation and recycling policy for the Township of Lower. This is the second reading and public hearing. This ordinance has been published and has been made available to the public as well as posted on our bulletin board.
Okay. Do I have any council comments on this? Open up the public comment for the second reading. Close the public portion. Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
In a second.
Councilmember Conrad?
Yes.
Councilmember Douglas?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Clark?
Yes.
Mayor Beck?
Yes.
Ordinance 2013-08, an ordinance amending Chapter 432 of the Mercantile License of the Township of Lower. This is the second reading and public hearing. This ordinance has been published and has been made available to the public as well as posted on our bulletin board.
Okay. Do I have any council comments on this? Open up for public comment. Close the public portion. Do I have a motion to approve in a second?
I'll make that motion to approve.
Second.
Councilmember Conrad?
Yes.
Councilmember Douglas?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Clark?
Yes.
Mayor Beck?
Yes. Move down to administrative reports. Any comments, questions? Move down to council comments. Mr. Tom?
Hope everyone had a wonderful Easter, and if you're on spring break, or your kids or grandkids, hope they're having a good time. I think this is the time to start looking at, for next year's budget, looking at the MUA excess fund. I know we've been talking about it, and some people are looking at different things. The argument is, that's the ratepayers' money. All ratepayers are taxpayers, but not all taxpayers are ratepayers. The problem with that is the current work that's being done. The MUA's contractors are tearing up the roads, but it's the township that has to fix the roads. So the taxpayers are paying for the ratepayers, some of the stuff. So it's not a lot, but it'll help offset any increases in future years if we start really looking into that, because the cost of the roads are gonna go up. Some of you that live in that area or drive those roads, pretty bad. We have to get them fixed. And the taxpayers are paying for it, not the ratepayers. Usually it's the company that tears up the road has to fix it. It'll just help even things out and help our budgets in the future.
I actually spoke with Matt Eckert today, and I think they're going to do some of that. But I can't, at some point we'll have to get them in here to talk about some of the, we've had complaints on some of the roads, and certainly they're not done what they're doing over there. But I think they recognize that they have, and I think our engineer was out with them today. So, that's in the works. Glenn?
I'm good.
I just want to say a word of thank you to our team here at Lower Township, and beginning with the manager and our treasurer, our clerk's office. As we've gone through this whole budget process, I've gotten to know, and I want to also say about the assessor's office. I mean, we've really intersected with just about every office as a result of this budget. That's what you do. And what I've seen is that people in this situation where we really do need to tighten and look for ways to save money and to be wise in our and prudent as far as how we do our budget, has been willing to spend extra time to get under the hood and study ways that in the beginning were not comfortable. They were new things that hadn't been done. They were a little scary, and they required a lot of research and understanding. We had to call up the county, we had to call up the school system, we had to get under the hood about how different ways of insurance could be done in order that we could save the taxpayers, hopefully, $400,000 or $500,000 at the end of this year, which is a big deal. And I want to thank the team for being willing to take that extra mile and look under the hood and do something a little bit differently in order to save the taxpayers some money.
That was an experience, and it was the first time that I've seen it done in the 12 plus 13 years or whatever I've been in government. Usually you just kind of got the numbers. I mean, we could talk why, but for the first time, I'll tell you why. It's because you've got people in here that, they're independent. Let's be honest about it. And we were able to literally dissect the numbers and move in a direction we haven't been in before. And there's the potential for it to save a lot of money in this town. So it's good. Here's the announcements. Little League opening day festivities, Saturday, April 13th, 9 a.m. Rotary Field at Midnick. Health Fair, Thursday, April 25th. That's April 13th, 9 a.m. That's for the Rotary Field, Little League. I heard somebody say where or whatever, so I'm sorry, I'm reading too fast. The Health Fair is Thursday, April 25th, 11 to 4 at the Rec Center. Health Fair, Thursday, April 25th, 11 to 4 at the Rec Center. Escape the Cape Triathlon, June 2nd on the Bayfront. Keep your eye out for additional information and traffic changes. Single source recycling begins today. Place all your recyclables in one container. With that, we'll open it up to a call to the public. Feel free to come forward and voice your concerns. This gentleman here, Mr. Bill.
Hi, Bill Greenfield, Willis. Regards to the capital projects discussion, I don't know all of them that were on there, but I know at least two of them that have been discussed here at meetings ad nauseum. The police department change and fishing pier. Now you say you're not a proponent of the fishing pier now?
No, I am a proponent. The problem is.
Well, I thought you just said you're not
I
a
said
big,
I am a proponent.
you're not a big proponent.
No, I am a proponent.
Oh, okay, I must have misheard you then.
Okay. The problem is we never, the figures we were discussing at first were a lot lower. Of course, those were pre-Sandy. There was a lot of money available.
Isn't that most of that state money anyway?
Yeah,
What they were talking about?
That's what we always said from the beginning, that it would be a commitment to get grant money.
So anything that would be capital for that would be a large amount.
And there is an intention to move forward with the, if we can get the application ready for the open space funding. And there's also the intention that the rec advisory, or the fishing pier advisory committee, in conjunction with the township.
You're on that.
You're on that.
Was.
You were.
Okay.
Well, you were invited that day.
I wasn't, yes. I've been to a lot of meetings. No, it's, the problem is we never discussed a number, and all of a sudden it's appeared in the budget. That's where my question came from.
No,
it's a lot higher than where we.
I remembered it to be a meeting at the, what was it, Irma Fire Hall? Where it's appointed to the committee, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Oh, it would be a great thing.
Oh, yeah.
I would, if we had the money, I would start
Is that where
tomorrow.
we're at? I mean, that's still under consideration, or?
It is, but we don't
Yeah,
know.
or-
What's that? Are you talking about the pier?
Yeah, the pier.
Yeah,
It modifies.
Listen. We've gone to, Tom's correct in that Sandy has moved, juggled some stuff around.
Right.
There's two different reasons. One is that you would need a superstructure out there, which would be cost prohibitive. And the second thing is, we're not without, knowledge that, say, right now would be a tough time to go to the state and say you need X billion dollars. So listen to what I'm saying. In the process of looking at some of the storm damage that took place down towards Canal Park, in a group decision, we took a look at the rock pile. So we shifted focus and had a meeting with the Army Corps of Engineers, okay, who, they don't give you approval, but they didn't give us any red flags to use the rock pile and to put a promenade on there. Okay, and it shifted from a fishing pier to a promenade down there. We've met with the DRBA. I've had...
So what do you mean, like a wooden superstructure?
No, like a concrete promenade, like you have,
okay.
concreted out there, and maybe make a pad at the end, which would be a good place to fish, but then you put some benches and maybe some awnings and a long walkway. It goes out 400 feet.
On the
and myself and George...
On the canal jetty? Or?
On the jetty, yeah, the canal jetty. We rode the Barnegat and took a look at theirs. So we're pursuing that. And it's something that's come up recently, and our intent is to try and get this thing into the system for the open space funding, okay? And there's other streams which, hopefully, but I mean, there's no book on these things. I mean, it's not like you pull a book off the shelf that says how to build this.
Changed from a standalone structure to...
It did, because when we started looking at it, they were doing scanning of all the rock piles. And up north, they actually had some damage to some of the rock piles. And I don't know, they can speak for themselves. But ours apparently was not of any significance. And it's been there, it passes the test of time. It's been there for 60 years, so it's pretty much settled. So we're kicking this around. That's the direction we're going, and it's just going to take some time.
Yeah, I'm a big proponent of it, but
I am also
a realist.
I'm a realist, and I'm also careful. And it's got to be the right plan, the right funding, et cetera, et cetera. So thank you for asking. That's where we're at.
Okay. The other thing I have to say is one comment from me about the budget. There was a comment made about 2/3 of the kids in school are low income and all, but not all of them are taxpayers either. Not all of them own houses. That's not a knock on them, but just throwing that out there that it's not like all those 2/3 people are going to be affected by a raise in the budget.
That's true. Thank you. Okay. Somebody else, this gentleman, I got a couple here. George, I think you were next, and I think Bob was up, and then...
George Doherty, Seashore Road. I guess on the capital budget, I guess going back to that on the fishing pier. Now I know you're going to try and do that with, you want to do that with all state funding, state aid and stuff like that.
Well, we're fishing as we speak.
Yeah. Well, that's what I mean. I want to find out now. I thought that kind of was on the back burner, but now it seems like it snuck into the next year's budget. It seems like.
No, I think you're wrong. It is not. We're going back to what we just went through.
Okay, can I clarify since?
Please do.
It's on the plan, it's like an idea.
Okay.
That's
I didn't like it being on the plan. It's not on the back burner for definitely this year or next year or any time, but because it was there, I objected to it. It doesn't mean tomorrow we're doing it, doesn't even actually mean 2014. But the potential is there because it is part of the plan. And that was my objection.
And if you hit the lottery and you came in here tomorrow with $1 million, we'd have that thing up and running by the summer.
Not me, I don't fish.
Well, do you play the lottery? That's all that matters.
That's the other thing. If it's going to be like 95% state aid, yeah, but it depends on what local.
About 94. Just settle for 94. We're doing the best.
George,
I'm doing the best I can.
How do you go for it? Just as long as we're not going to pay, end up like 20, 30%, we end up paying for this to locals. I don't know if that's.
Thank you.
I think that should be, put under a vote or something. But also on the, I guess the municipal building for the new police department.
Right.
Did they ever consider just putting code enforcement where the police are and the police where code enforcement like it used to be and just switch the buildings? Would that be
no, it's not.
It couldn't be feasible.
Not feasible. Code enforcement is like a shoebox. I mean,
it's smaller than that.
Oh, you're talking about this whole code building.
Yeah.
Oh,
So that
that's
would
not code
police
enforcement,
office.
that's your construction office.
Construction, oh yeah, that's
Oh,
like
okay.
construction.
All right,
Land
well,
board,
yeah, that
and all that
will,
to move to the
well,
airport.
that's,
and then-
it's the reason, George, it's the reason why they left here to begin with, it's too small. If it's done, it probably would include an addition onto the back.
Just an addition, not a brand new.
Not a brand new thing.
Okay, that's what I just want to find out.
Thank you. Now, I think that, this lady's somebody new, she hasn't spoken yet, so please come on.
Probably don't want to hear me anyway.
No, I really don't. That's rather ominous, we're all friends here. Go ahead, hey, your name, please?
Charlotte Behealer, Tabernacle Road.
Yes, ma'am.
How many code enforcement officers do we have in Lower Township?
We have one full-time code enforcement officer, Walt Fury.
Walt Fury. Is there an ordinance on the books that fine people who do not recycle?
Yes, certainly. You have to recycle. There is an ordinance on that.
It's the law.
Yeah.
You must recycle.
Yeah, if you look at,
Are they enforcing this ordinance?
well, I think that the question is, are we enforcing it? I think if there's an egregious violation, we certainly will. But are you asking if we cut people's trash cans open?
No.
Or bags open to see if there's a can or a bottle in there? The answer is not.
No.
I'm
not asking that question.
Okay.
I'm asking how do they enforce it?
Oh, how do they enforce it? Well,
I think the trashmen, if they see actual recyclables, they won't take it, and they refuse. I could be wrong, if they see it on top or see a lot of them, but.
Councilman's correct. It's enforced really by the men on the
Let me
street.
get this straight. If a person does not recycle, and the trash truck employees see that they're not, they just don't take the trash.
But they report it to their office.
Could anyone tell me how much money was brought into the township through fines for not recycling?
As far as I know, maybe the mayor and council know, I don't know of anybody that's been fined or penalized for violating the state law and not purposely recycling.
Is it possible we could?
Anything's
It
possible.
doesn't make sense to me. If people aren't recycling, so now we're making one container for all of it, to try to generate more recycling income.
yes.
Why are we not fining people instead of just leaving their trash? Because all they're doing is taking it over to the recycling center and throwing it in the trash trucks. Are they keeping an eye there at MUA as to who's throwing what in? I mean, there's got to be a better way to enforce people who do not recycle.
There obviously,
It's a source of income if they do not.
Yes, ma'am. Obviously, you know of an issue, and you don't want to share where or what or who tonight, but if you want to
Oh,
call.
no. I don't have an issue with
Oh.
anyone. I got to thinking after I'm hearing about we can mix paper and bottles now. If it's not being enforced, those who do not recycle, they're getting their trash picked up unless the driver or the guy picking up or the lady picking up the can sees it. They leave it,
Yes.
which is an eyesore in our community if it's left on the street. There's got to be a way to make these people understand that today we have to recycle.
Well, I don't know if you got a phone call today, but I got a call from this guy.
Of course we did.
So he certainly reminded me while I was trying to take a nap that I have to
I'm
recycle.
sorry.
I heard his voice on my phone, so look, here's what you have. If we have somebody, like most people, and to be honest about it, recycling for me has become such second nature that it would, if somebody comes down to visit me and throws a can in the trash, I'm like, what do you do? You grab the thing. And I think most people are that way. If we know of somebody who just absolutely refuses, which I don't think we've ever had, but if they did, and it was something that was repetitive, we certainly would write them a ticket. We just haven't had that issue. Most people are pretty cooperative when it comes to it, and our public works people are pretty cooperative in looking at this situation. And as far as the other materials now, I mean, we have enough scrappers out there that they're picking clean any of the extraneous recyclable materials that we don't individually collect or from a township perspective. But, go ahead.
Bob Bailey's out here. Bob, do they still put stickers on containers if they find recycle?
When they find a can that's mixed, it's too bad they can't pull it out of it, yes, they will sticker it, the person has to review the can. Then when we'll come back, they'll call, we'll come back and get it.
So it is being enforced to
Yeah,
some degree?
to some extent, absolutely.
All right, it's just that,
That's fine.
to me,
Good
there's a
idea.
source of income there for people who do not realize that we need to recycle.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I know. Steve, briefly?
Very briefly,
Thank you.
I'd recommend, if it hasn't been done already, that new stickers be made indicating streaming. Thank you.
Thank you. Bob?
First, gentlemen, I'd like to thank you. You did a hell of a job. You really did with this budget. I know you couldn't do that much more with it. I do have a question. I went to the MUA this morning, and I wanted to recycle some medication. And they said, oh, we can't do it here. You have to go to the public safety building.
Right.
Well, God, that's a terrible place to go to. You shouldn't make residents go there. Put the thing here or put it in the, you gotta walk 10 miles to go in there. And they're not very helpful there. I know it's an easy thing to do once you get there. Mike, put it here in this building, or put it in the MUA building. Over there is no good, it really isn't.
I understand that. It's a difficult trek. And that's an important issue.
Yeah, I took the trek over here today because I thought I could do it at the MUA. The MUA, you walk in the door, it's only a little, it looks like a place where you put your mail. I mean, it's easy.
They had this at the MUA, you're saying?
No, I wish they would.
Oh, okay.
I had to go to public safety building.
Well, I don't know. If there's, maybe we'll ask the chief if there's a way that we can do that here.
You talking about our public works?
No, public safety building.
No, you went first to...
No, I went to the MUA because I paid a bill there this morning and I thought it was there. And the girl said, no, it's the public safety building.
We'll check on it, Bob. See if we
That's
can
a
get
terrible place to go.
problem is-
Stick it here or stick it at the MUA.
Why does it go into the police department? A terrible, I miss this.
Have you ever gone there? You know I used to go there to get the key for this place.
Thank you.
Mr. Rizzo, it might be because it's a legal issue, because it's medications, and some of them may be narcotics.
Well, I don't know. Maybe you can find out about it.
All right, we'll check with
It's a
the
wonderful
chief.
thing. You stick it in the thing and it's...
That's it, you walk away.
It's gone.
You don't want to put them in the toilet, please.
Of course not. That's why I went there. Thank you.
Anybody else wishing to address council? Close the public portion. Motion to adjourn. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.